I'm Joel Rodker and I'm the farm manager at Norwich Farm Share.
So just tell me a little bit more about the Farm Share.
Yeah, Norwich Farm Share is a community supported agriculture, which means that we are growing veg for veg bags which people subscribe to every week, and we grow as much of that food as possible on the farm. And we have a very strong emphasis on getting the community involved and helping people to come and volunteer and learn about food growing.
Why do you think it's important that people need to learn more about the food they grow?
I think as a planet and as humanity, we're facing a lot of different challenges, and we need to look at ways that we can be more resilient. And we're starting to understand something that I guess Indigenous communities have known for a long time, that we are not really separated from nature, that everything we do has an impact on nature, and everything that happens to nature has an impact on us. And so it's really important that we understand a lot of those natural processes, the water cycle, the solar energy cycle, and how food is grown, and the impact that food growing has on the environment, and the impact that the way food is grown has on our health, because not all foods are the same, even though they might look the same on the outside, and that creates a more resilient environment and a more resilient population, which is got to be good for us in the future.
Why do you think urban growing initiatives like this are so important?
I think in terms of the community aspect, we want it to be accessible, so it's very helpful to be close to where lots of people are. And that helps me because I live in the city, so it's easy to get to, and a lot of our customers are based in Norwich, so it makes the supply chains from where we grow the food to where it's sold and used very short, which is good for the environment and makes life a lot easier. I think there's a big disconnection between where a lot of people live and a lot of food is consumed, i.e. in cities, and where food is grown, so it just helps to keep that connection close. If you're in the countryside a long way from where people live, it's quite hard for people to have that connection with where the food is grown, although that might be the only option for large farms where you need lots of space. But yeah.
Now talk to me about where we're at right now, and then we'll go and have a look around the farm.
Yeah, so we have two big polytunnels on the farm. Well, they're not big compared to some very large polytunnels or greenhouses which are acres in size, but we're in the biggest polytunnel here, which is where we grow tomatoes and peppers in the summer, and then in the winter we have winter leaves. So in here at the moment this year we've got spinach and salads, and that means that we can keep harvesting produce through the winter. These would not be growing very well outside, and on a sunny day like this, the temperature's high enough in here, the ground isn't frozen, whereas it is frozen outside, and so these plants will keep growing, and as you can see, we can keep harvesting through the winter. This is block 9. We divide the whole field into blocks just so it's easier to know everything is. This has got leeks in it this winter. Leeks is one of our staple winter crops. These are a little bit behind, so they're not as big as we'd like them, but they will keep us going hopefully through the spring, through the hungry period when we're not really planting anything new and everything's starting to run out.
Now, the importance of our connectivity with the food that we grow and the proximity to nature, I mean, why do you think that's so important?
I mean, you probably have to look at evolutionary reasons why we feel such a positive benefit of being close to nature, but I think all the anecdotal evidence and my personal experience and scientific evidence shows that when people are in nature and close to nature, which we are a part of, people feel happier, people feel more grounded, and it has a sort of therapeutic impact on people. And although we're producing food here, it's in a very people-friendly environment, and that we use people-friendly tools, so there's no big machinery, it's not noisy, although you can hear the A47. We don't use any toxic chemicals, so we are working very close to nature, and in a way that we're not harming nature as much as possible.
What benefits do you think that it brings to the volunteers that work here?
I think there's a some kind of benefit, which I can't really put my finger on what it is, to do with being outside and close to nature, which benefits us physically and emotionally and mentally. I think there's a sense of reward and satisfaction and well-being from doing something useful and meaningful that's helping the community, i.e. growing food. That is part of a wider sense of doing something good, and we're doing it in a setting which is, it's not the most beautiful place in the world, but it is a pretty place to come and be, and just to be.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And in terms of the people that you provide food to, talk to me about the how many people buy the food, what they buy, and how it's distributed.
Yeah, we have about 110 subscribers at the moment, and there are 3 veg bags, small, medium and large, that people can subscribe to. They live all over Norwich. They generally subscribe every week, although you can pause and some people take a break of a few weeks. We harvest the veg on a Wednesday, it gets packed on a Thursday and then distributed by bicycle courier, or people come and pick up their veg bags. And at the moment people can't really choose what they have in their veg bag, and what we do that we choose, but we are a bit flexible about what goes into those veg bags. And some of those people come and help on the farm, and some of them are just subscribers and get their veg delivered.
Now you're also looking at actually potentially getting some micro gardens around Norwich City Centre. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, we got a grant from the Land Workers Alliance to try and help improve access to better food for people on low income, and one of the ways we did that was to look for opportunities around Norwich where we could set up small gardens using the same principles that we use here to grow food and help people learn about food growing. And the first one we did was at St Francis Church, and that's been incredibly successful. A small group of local people have taken that on, and they're managing the bit of land pretty much without our help now, and growing food, and that's helping to focus food growing in that community where there isn't really any food growing at the moment.
We've got volunteers working all around us. How many people would you say are kind of frequent volunteers here?
We have about 10 to 12 volunteers on a Wednesday, and most of those come every Wednesday. Ironically, with COVID, we implemented a numbers restriction so that we didn't have too many people on site at one time, but we've had way more volunteers since the start of the pandemic than we ever used to have. And a lot of those people have carried on coming even though their situation has changed. We're in block 9. All of our field is divided into blocks, and block 9 and block 8 have got leeks growing in them this year, and we move the different families of vegetables around each year, and the leeks are hopefully going to see us through the spring. This means that we're growing as much food as possible on our market garden through the winter.
So talk to me about the types of foods that you grow throughout the year and how you distribute them.
Yeah, so we are a CSA, which means that we're very much about growing all the food that we can ourselves, and in the summer 100% of the veg which goes into our veg bags is from here, and that would include things like tomatoes, cucumbers, salads, peppers, calabrese and some of the other crops which are out in the field. And then that changes in the winter to be things like leeks and spinach, kale, purple sprouting broccoli, some of the winter salads, and that's all harvested on a Wednesday and then taken to our packing premises where we put it into bags, and then it's distributed on a Thursday to our members.
So how many volunteers do you have on a regular basis at Norris Community Farm Share, and what kind of benefits do you think that working on the land in an urban environment brings to them?
Yeah, we have about 200 people on our volunteer list. At the moment we have about 10 to 12 people coming every Wednesday, and then a few people on a Tuesday and a Thursday, and a lot of those are regular people that come every week. And my sense is that people very much enjoy being outside, doing physical work, doing something meaningful where they're helping and contributing to the community, growing food, learning new skills, and they also enjoy the social aspect, which is not something you might associate with farming traditionally, because it was often one or two people on a very big farm having not much contact with other people. So this farm is particularly social, and people enjoy coming here, even though we've had to introduce restrictions because of COVID and social distancing. So I think people get a lot out of the outdoors and the contact with nature, even though they're growing food, because often farms that are growing just one crop almost don't feel like you are part of nature. It's sort of a quite industrialised type of farming, and this is very much being in contact with the soil, growing a very wide variety of different crops.
You've got a variety of different crops here at the farm today, but you're also branching out, excuse the pun, around Norwich. Tell me about some of your microgardens.
Yeah, so we got a grant from the Land Workers Alliance last year, and we've been using that to try and think of ways that we can improve access to better food for people on low income. And one of the ways we've been doing that is trying to find people in their communities who want to set up very small gardens where they can start growing food that they and their community can enjoy, because we know that the food here and the location is not accessible to everybody, and sometimes our food is out of the reach of people that are on low income because it costs too much. And so those micro gardens are a really good way for people to learn about food growing, so they can start growing their own food and have that community sort of aspect that we have on this farm. And it would be great to see lots of those happening all around the city.